Good evening, everyone. Before we begin, I just want to take a moment just to thank the board and the superintendent for all your support, all the support you provide to us, all the schools for that matter, throughout the entire school year. It's phenomenal how fortunate we are to have a partnership with the community through you, and so thank you for that. Also, we're going to present a bunch of information tonight about the kinds of things that are happening at Sutherland, and it really does it involves a lot of people throughout the entire school year. And I just want to take a moment to thank our assistant principals, Jennifer Marin and Eileen Scoville, for all their leadership and support in those efforts that we make at the building, which are just ongoing and they're constant. And it's a pleasure to work with them and to share the leadership with them. So thank you. So our presentation is in three parts tonight. I'll start by providing an overview of the things that have been going on throughout the school year and how they were connected to things that were happening in last year. It's a multi-year effort, essentially. We're going to talk a bit, actually, it's our school psychologist, Jessica Levan, is here, and she's going to share what was the theme for our Superintendent's Conference Day this year, which laid the foundation for the school year, and that was in making connections. And then our third portion is going to be presented by Senior Mackenzie Sweet, who is also a Link Crew leader. Mackenzie is going to talk about the student activities that support the efforts that have been happening throughout the building and how all those things are connected. So this is just a snapshot of the kinds of things that have been happening for the last year and a half or so. The Fall Superintendent's Conference Day for last year was based on efforts in building and reinforcing relationships amongst the staff and within the school community. And on that day, we made efforts to realize each other's strengths and also get to know each other at a level of how to best approach each other with the work and our personal work preferences. We also focused on what we wanted for our students and creating a dialogue, or again, kind of reinforcing the dialogue we have between staff and students. In the meetings with students throughout last year, we met with a number of different kinds of interactions with students. So on an individual level, in small groups and that sort of thing. And at those meetings, we talked we had real conversations about how students were feeling at the school. And this was all through a variety of different conversations in different venues. I had the pleasure of working with a number of students who were looking to make what they felt were improvements to the interactions that we have at the school on a day-to-day basis. I continue to work with them, and I'm actually very grateful for those conversations and interactions because, like with all these interactions, we grow a little bit closer each time we talk. So in the spring, this past spring, at the end of the last year, we had a Superintendent's Conference Day where we shared professional learning with our colleagues at the middle school level. And at that event, on that day, we took a really good look at the kinds of potential challenges that our students have when they come to school, what their lives look like, and what it means to actually make connections with them at a level that helps us understand where they're coming from. So rather than just where they are when they arrive, looking deeper into individual students' challenges and all the kinds of things that they bring with them to school, and then the contributions and their strengths and how to reach them on an individual level when interacting with them, whether it's academically or socially, every aspect of the school day. So that brings us to this year. After all those conversations, again, making connections within the staff, between students and staff, we took the day and really just took a hard look at some data, which Jessica will share with you in just a few minutes. So rather than just the kind of conversational, kind of anecdotal feedback from students, we took a look at youth risk behavior survey data as well as other data points to better understand how we might be able to provide support to students, again, on an individual level based on the feedback from that data. And then throughout the school year, this is last year and this year, we continue to have these discussions related to all this work at building level teams, instructional leadership team, faculty meetings, and any venue that we had, counselor administrative team meetings. And what that looks like is reviewing the work that we've been doing along the way. And when we come up with initiatives or strategies to work with students, we bring this back up again and try to take a look at what the best way to implement those ideas in our day-to-day interactions with students, what it looks like in classrooms, what it looks like when we're speaking to, I think about the grade level meetings we had earlier this school year, where we always embed making those connections into the work that we're doing with our students, including large scale at grade level, or even in individual or smaller scale meetings that might happen in offices and that sort of thing. So at this point, I'll hand it over to Jessica Levan.
Hello, everyone. So as Mark highlighted, we really took Superintendent's Conference Day this fall as an opportunity to dig deeper into our own student data and into our own practices as educators on how we can make an impact in the lives in terms of social emotional. So research suggests that approximately 20% of teens under the age of 18 experience emotional difficulties like anxiety or depression. We really wanted to put a face to that statistic, and we had the opportunity to have student volunteers who wanted to talk to our staff about their experiences with anxiety and depression. These students bravely spoke about the impact that these challenges have and how the adults in school can best support them. Actually, one of these students was a Pittsford Pride recipient at the last ceremony, and their honesty was so impactful that they received a standing ovation, and many teachers approached them personally after to share the impact that they had. So this really underscores the two main objectives that we focused on in our Fall Superintendent's Conference Day. The one objective was the why. So we wanted our teachers to understand the amazing impact that they can have by making connections with students. We also wanted them to know how to do that, and so many of them shared their collective wisdom with each other. And we explored and reflected on our collective repertoire of practices that help us each make connections to students in our daily work. This is just one data point that we highlighted with our teachers to further underscore the why. We've seen a lot of changes in our student population, and this shows that our teachers have a tremendous influence in our students' lives, as they see them every day, 40 minutes a day, which is more than even those of us in the counseling office often see them. So the influence that a teacher has on students, especially students with needs requiring above and beyond support through general education. We started with a quick review of what the Adverse Childhood Experiences, or ACEs, are. So as Mark mentioned, we spent time Superintendent's Conference Day last year learning about ACEs and risk factors and resilience factors. So we reviewed some of this information about the impact that abuse and neglect or just household dysfunction can have on student behavior, their physical health, and their mental health. When we look at the balance between trauma or risk factors and resiliency factors, we can see that it's delicate. For many students, the scale can be tipped easily in one way or the other. In school, we have little control over the things on the left side of this scale. As a result, we wanted to highlight with our teachers where we have the most control in our school setting, which is the external resources and support, our staff, our people, the connections that we make as humans with one another. To do this, we reviewed Sutherland's student data from the 2017 Youth Risk Behavior Survey. We dug deep into the data to look at the impact of 3 specific assets on our students' social emotional functioning as they relate to these external resources and supports. What we found was fascinating, and we shared this data with staff. So I'm just going to quickly show you some of the assets that we looked at and the impact that our students feel from their relationships with staff. So this is a visual of the students who report not having a non-parental adult that they can go to for help, and their simultaneous endorsement of feeling sad for 2 or more weeks or experiencing emotional problems. This is the data of students who report having at least one non-parental adult they can go to for help, and their endorsement of these same 2 risk factors. What we saw was that our students who have at least one non-parental adult they can go to for help saw a dramatic reduction in these risk factors. The second asset that we looked at is receiving encouragement at school. These are the students who endorsed not receiving or feeling like they don't receive encouragement at school and feeling sad and experiencing emotional problems. When we looked at the students who report receiving a lot of encouragement at school, again, we saw a dramatic reduction in their endorsement of these risk factors. This is the most dramatic. Students who report that they don't feel that they matter to people in my community are reflected with this graphic. And students who report feeling like they matter to people in their community, we saw a tremendous impact. In addition, when responding to questions regarding suicidal thoughts, there was an even greater reduction for students who receive encouragement at school and feel that they matter in their community. This asset is one of the reasons we have programs such as Link Crew and Sources of Strength, and why our extracurricular activities are so critical. These programs help our students feel connected and feel like they matter in our community. We highlighted with teachers the power that one positive, caring, consistent adult can make. We hope that this was the key takeaway for our staff, no matter what their role at Sutherland, that they understand the immense influence and potential to make real difference in student lives, based on our own students' data. We spent the second portion of the day working together at tables to generate a list of strategies that teachers use to connect with students. The teachers wrote these strategies down on easel post-it paper, and this was our transition into the how. These are just a couple examples of the strategies that our teachers at Sutherland are using to connect with students on a daily basis. Each group shared out, and we compiled the strategies into one document capturing the wisdom of the room. We also asked teachers to reflect on their students and their practices. We asked them to think about how they can incorporate some of these strategies going forward to engage with their students and ensure that these critical positive connections are being made. Mark has revisited this work throughout the year at faculty meetings and discussed as a staff what strategies we've been implementing and the positive results we've seen.
So that list that you saw, those 3 lists, were actually a summary of a lot of chart paper. We basically, we wallpapered a room at one point with all the different ideas that were discussed, and that was done individually, then in small groups, and then a large group. And that's the work that, like Jessica said, we keep going back to, and we're trying to develop a little bit more as we move forward. And that's what we're doing as a staff. And then we looked carefully at the other programs, like Sources of Strength, Link Crew, and other things that are happening within the building, even in our club activities. And we wanted to highlight one of those for you today, so we chose Link Crew. And I had the pleasure of going, and there was a Link Crew lesson that happened earlier this year, and I had the pleasure of going in and seeing Mackenzie and her partner actually present to a group of students this Link Crew lesson, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So that's why we thought Mackenzie would be a great representative of the students for the efforts that they're making, because now this is a look at what the students are actually doing that complements the work that the staff is doing. And it's actually not even designed that way. It's very much just a very natural kind of fit, because it's the work that we're trying to do as a school community. So without further ado, Mackenzie, sweet. And you can use the mouse for the play button.
Okay.
I think, yep, there it is.
Perfect. Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm Mackenzie. I've been doing Link Crew for 2 years now. So, the first thing that we start off with here is what we like to call the gauntlet. It's during the freshman orientation. It's kind of the icebreaker for the day. It's the Link Crew leaders greeting the freshmen and getting them excited for the day. And we do lots of different activities to start off freshman orientation as well as icebreakers. The next thing that we do during the orientation is the school tour. This tends to be the favorite part of the day for Link crew leaders and freshmen as well. So each group dresses up in different costumes, and we tour around the building. The freshmen can ask questions, and we take pictures with our group. It's a really great way for the incoming freshmen to learn how to navigate their new school. A new thing that we did this year was homeroom welcome posters, and the Link crew leaders created these before orientation day, as well as other inspirational signs and welcome signs, so the freshmen can feel welcomed as they come into the building and reassured that they're going to the right room in the morning as well to start off their day. We also have encouraging posters, and the library also incorporated books into that as well. This is our popsicle party in the amphitheater outside. This was 9th period on the second day of school. It was just for the Link crew leaders to check in with their group and ask how they were, how their first day of school went, if they had any questions or concerns for the rest of their week, and that was a really fun way for us to check in. This is the fall follow-up in the gym, and we did a bunch of activities like the Human Knot game, as you're seeing now, and other games. Something cool that we did was the One and All poster, and this is when we all put our similarities in the middle and our differences on the outside, and things that made us unique. And then these got hung around the school as well, so these were great things for the freshmen to look at to see what they have in common with other people and what makes them unique. A great opportunity that we had was a student Link crew conference this year, and this was a full-day conference. We had a national speaker and over 300 Link leaders from schools around the Rochester area. We got to interact with other Link leaders, and it helped us as Link crew to learn about how to take on better leadership roles. This was the Link Crew Rainbow Classic breakfast rally in the cafeteria. This was first period. We did different activities like the All Things Sutherland alphabet race poster, and that was fun. The real reason for the breakfast was to talk about tradition and why we honor Ryan McCluskey and Caitlin Paisley on the day of the Rainbow Classic. Tradition is very important to us at Sutherland, so we had our superfan captains as well practice some chants with the freshmen and get them ready for the big game day. The next thing that we have is cocoa and cookies. This was a stress relief activity during all lunch periods in the cafeteria. This wasn't just for freshmen, but for all students as well. And it's tips for studying, and then we had stress relief like aromatherapy, Zen tangles. We even had pet therapy, which was stuffed animals, but still just as effective, we'd like to think. So the very last thing I'm going to talk about, which Mr. Puma introduced, is the Link Crew lesson. And several Link leaders signed up to teach a lesson during a freshman English class. And this was right before Thanksgiving. These are stills from it. But the lesson focused on healthy relationships and building strong relationships. We described and wrote down aspects of a healthy relationship and talked about our experiences with relationships throughout high school. And we focused on the importance of having someone to trust, whether that's at home or at school or an outside of school activity, and really focused on the fact that it's important for everyone to have a go-to person to trust wherever that may be. And overall, throughout Link Crew, our goal is making connections and looking back and seeing to make sure that we have those strong relationships. And in Link Crew, we want to make sure that every freshman has someone that they can trust going into freshman year, because it's a scary time for some people, as I went through it myself not too long ago. And we're happy to make sure that they have a person that they can trust as well. So, thank you.
And that's our presentation. Have any questions?
I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to comment. Mackenzie, you did a phenomenal job describing Link Crew and all that you're doing. That was really incredible. So thank you for being here. We always enjoy seeing the students and hearing your perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I agree. Great job. Great job.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank you, everyone.
it. Thank you so much.